Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulamitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Prabhajantam Anupeta Apeta Kritam Rapayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Binedus Tam Savabhutam Hridayam Munimanatusme Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshaya Kiptashtakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpa Tarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. So, we begin again by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Shri Guru Pada Padmanithalita Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asto Tarsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanithalita Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asto Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Upanagura Varga and all the Sama Vaishnavas Vaishnavis. Okay, so get this here. There we go. All right, so yesterday, we had a kind of a cliffhanger, right? Putana had come. Everyone in Vrindavan was bewildered by her beauty. It appeared as if the goddess of fortune herself had come. And so she was easily gained entrance into the house of Nanda Maharaj, also by the influence of Yogamaya, that her beauty was allowed to be perceived like that. Even though she's a Rakshasi and can change her form in any way possible, still she couldn't change herself into a transcendental body, right, like the goddess of fortune. But from all perspectives, she looked so beautiful by Yogamaya's grace. And so then she saw that baby. She had come to Braj. She'd been in so many places already, taking up the task that Kamsa had given to kill all the children born in the last 10 days. Very demoniac. Who cares that, most of them, all but one of them is completely innocent. Whatever it takes, to save my own life, he's willing to do that. No morality at all. So then she entered the house and she easily picked up the child, right? And we're going to hear about that. First, she's seeing him. And she saw him and she couldn't detect his full potency. It's described that his potency was covered, right? Kind of like a fire that's covered by ash. Like we got our fireplace, right? Wintertime, sometimes it's flaming and all, but after a time it's all coals and then ashes over it, and it looks like it's gone out, but you just blow away the ash, throw a little wood on, whoop, and it gives off a lot of heat. At any rate, she couldn't see his full power, but she did recognize that this was a dangerous person who had been born to kill demons. But since he's a little child, she figured she could easily take care of him. So here's where we are. Now she's seeing that, thinking like that, and then what? Vibudyatam balaka marika graham Chara charatma samilikhitekshana anantam aropayarankam yato ragam suptam maburi rajudi. Lord Sri Krishna, the all-pervading Supersoul, lying on the bed, understood that Putana, a witch who was expert in killing small children, had come to kill him. Therefore, as if afraid of her, Krishna closed his eyes. Thus, Putana took upon her lap him who was to be her own annihilation, just as an unintelligent person places a sleeping snake on his lap, taking the snake to be a rope. So, she had no idea who she had taken on her lap. So, Krishna closed his eyes, as if afraid, but there's more to it. This is really interesting. And I've heard this brought up when this katha comes up, this multiple purposes for closing his eyes. It's very interesting, actually, and sweet, because everything Krishna does is sweet. Even his killing of demons is sweet. So this verse, Cakravarti Thakur says, shows an opportunity for the Lord's power of omniscience to render service at the time of an approaching evil. His omnipotence to render service at the time of approaching evil. Though Krishna fully understood Putana's identity, he lay there with his eyes closed like a normal child. Now, why did Krishna close his eyes? Okay, so first one, which we heard in the verse, to show his fearfulness as a small child, to avoid seeing such an inauspicious person, to avoid making the violence auspicious by the touch of his auspicious glance, and to avoid the shame of killing a woman posing as a mother, and to avoid seeing the inauspiciousness of Putana's death. So all of those, okay, so let's go through them. If I asked you right now, all of those, what would you say? What are the reasons? Why did he close his eyes? Give me one. Who can say? Even the first one. Don't be shy.
It's inauspicious to look at.
What?
It's inauspicious to look at this demon.
Yeah, he didn't want to look at that awful demon. What was the very first one mentioned in the verse?
He's afraid.
He's afraid, apparently afraid, right? What else? What else? Some of them appear to overlap a little bit. So he didn't want to see this inauspicious person, fearful, right? Wherever Krishna looks, everything becomes auspicious. So he didn't want to bestow his glance of mercy, kindness, benediction at a time when he was about to do something, heavy. And in a sense, bless her with his glance, right? So he needed this to play out. And, so he didn't want that, make that violence auspicious. And to avoid the shame of killing a woman posing as his mother. He was a little ashamed, so I've got to kill this woman. Right? And then, let's see, to avoid seeing the inauspiciousness of Putana's death. Then, Putana placed Krishna in her lap. Krishna is called Ananta, which means without end, and Antakam, because he brings about the end. This was an opportunity for Krishna's destructive energy to operate. Putana held on her lap that person who is without limit in all space and time. Antakam and Ananta are also contradictory words to express this wonderful mellow known as Adbhuta Ras. As a foolish person picks up a sleeping snake, thinking it is a rope, similarly Putana foolishly held Krishna, thinking him an ordinary, helpless child. And she must have been very eager, salivating, because so much she enjoys the taste of blood. and the flesh of small children. Oh, what? Oh. And that condition has always been there on the planet. There have always been these kinds of people. If they can exist in the auspicious Dwapara Yuga and Treta Yuga and Satya Yuga, what to speak of Kali Yuga? Think they don't exist? When people hear that they're cannibals, that wealthy, powerful people will eat human flesh, they go, oh, how is it possible? But some of them have admitted it. In South India, this is all well known, right? That these kinds of sacrifices still go on to Kali. They sometimes, poor families will sell an unfortunate child, one who may not be very intelligent or some defect or something like that, and take the money, and then they cut them off and sacrifice them. And many times eat them as well. So, tam tikshna chittam ativama cheshtitam vikshantara kosha parichasa chadasivat varasriyam tat prabhavya chadashite nirikshamane janani yatishtatam. Putana Rakshasi's heart was fierce and cruel, but she looked like a very affectionate mother. Thus she resembled a sharp sword in a soft sheath. Although seeing her within the room, Jashoda and Rohini, overwhelmed by her beauty, did not stop her, but remained silent because she treated the child like a mother. Yeah, that's the nature of the demons. You think that you can detect a demon, by their look, by the way they speak. Some of the biggest demons can be the most beguiling, the most charming, the sweetest words, right? They can mimic good behavior. This is one of the symptoms, actually, of a psychopath, by the way, that they have no real morality or emotion other than that which serves their own purposes. So they may, be, there's a very large percentage, I think it was 20 to 30% of all CEOs and politicians are known psychopaths. I mean, you can, and that allows them to act, especially in the world of business, in a way that's always going to be most favorable for them, in other words, for the company that they represent or the interest. So they can very easily, if they take over a big company, just sell off all this stuff. It's not profitable, end all these jobs, They don't have any remorse at all. The ends justify the means. And politicians also, they'll say anything. They'll be so sweet on camera, although be so moral and so outraged on behalf of the people, but they don't do anything for them. It's all for themselves. Politicians like that, if you look at their record, they come in to the Congress or the Senate, just like ordinary people, empty-handed, no money. And by the time they leave 10, 20 years later, even within a few years, somehow or other they've accumulated a huge fortune, even hundreds of millions of dollars. How is it possible? Because they're taking bribes, taking payoffs, insider trading, just selling their soul for their own advancement, right? But they can look really nice. Oh, Uncle so-and-so, oh, Aunt E so-and-so, they have this way of looking like they're the protector and the well-wisher, but they just exploit their people, exploit them. And this Rakshasi, she had the ability to look beautiful and kindly and nurturing, but her heart inside was cruel and ruthless. Tam tikshna chitam ati. Oh, no, I read that one. Okay. So Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says about that. Let me read the verse again. Putana Rakshasi's heart was fierce and cruel, but she looked like a very affectionate mother. Thus she resembled a sharp sword in a soft sheath. Although seeing her within the room, Yashoda and Rohini, overwhelmed by her beauty, did not stop her, but remained silent because she treated the child like a mother. So Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur explains, why did Jashoda and Rohini not stop Putana? This verse answers this question. Putana acted like a very attentive mother. Externally, she was gentle, but inwardly she was cruel. Putana resembled a sharp sword concealed in a soft leather sheath. Overwhelmed by Putana's influence, Yashoda and Rohini thought that perhaps Ambika, Indrani, or Lakshmi of the celestial regions had come to feed Krishna out of motherly love. Thus, they passively watched her pick up the child. And because they were so innocent, they're so pure, they had so much love for Krishna. This is the thing, pure-hearted people don't necessarily recognize the impurity and bad motives of others because they're such well-wishers. Can't imagine that anyone could be like that. When Visvanath Thakur was in government service, there was one Englishman who had befriended him, and they had this ongoing relationship for decades. And Visvanath Thakur was so expert, he kept advancing more and more into in the bureaucracy and the judicial system until he got to the highest point that an Indian could get. When he had retired, this gentleman was feeling some remorse, and he went and he spoke to Visvanath Thakur, and he said, all this time you've considered me your friend, and I've acted like it, but actually I've always been envious and very angry about you. And he said, what? I never imagined that. Why? He said, because you were so expert, I felt threatened. Right? I felt threatened by your accomplishments, by your talents, by your prowess, And he admitted that we have to be very careful, because if more people like you were in the government, you'd all take it over from us. In other words, you're more talented, you're more intelligent than all of your English so-called overlords, right? And Visvanath Thakur, who was very judicious and very perceptive about human nature, just like Sanatana Goswami, he didn't even realize it, right? So that's the nature of the difference between the mentality of a demon. They can hide their evil nature, and a devotee, he may not detect it, because devotees always try to see the best. Now, that doesn't mean that we should all go out and start trying to become perceptive so we can see the evil in everybody. You don't want to have that mentality. You want to have the mentality of always, seeing the best and not meditating with a critical eye on people. You have to be able to distinguish between what's favorable for bhakti, what's not favorable. And if you detect something unfavorable in someone, then you just don't associate, just a little distance, but be everyone's well-wisher, right? That's the mood of a Vaishnava. But when it comes to big, big demons, well, sometimes they have to be taken care of. But that's not the business of the Brahmanas generally. It does happen, though. Remember, King Vena was so evil, and no one could oppose him. So the Brahmanas themselves, when he finally said, I am God, you should worship me, all sacrifice should be directed to me, he was so puffed up, so self-centered, that they said, all right, he's crossed the line, and by mantra they killed him. Right? And when Indra had been kept stealing the sacrificial horse, for Prithu Maharaj's sacrifice, he did it over and over, and finally the Brahmins had enough. They said, we will bring Indra here and kill him. We'll throw him into the fire. And they did mantras, and they dragged him down from the heavens. And Indra was helpless, and they were going to kill him. But then Lord Brahma came and intervened and said, no, look, okay, he's done wrong, but he is devotee of the Lord. He's empowered by the Lord. He's the protector in the universe of the devas, so don't kill him. And actually, even if you tried, you couldn't. Even though he's made mistakes, you can't kill him. So, different ways of dealing in different situations. So, now what's going to happen? Tasmin stanam durjaravayam ubalpanam gorankam adaya shisho dadavata gadham karabhyam bhagavan prapidyatat pranay samam rosha samanvito pibat. On that very spot, the fiercely dangerous Rakshasi took Krishna on her lap and pushed her breast into his mouth. The nipple of her breast was smeared with a dangerous, immediately effective poison. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, becoming very angry at her, took hold of her breast, squeezed it very hard with both hands, and sucked out both the poison and her life. Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says, in that place, the fierce woman Putana offered her poison-besmeared breast to the baby. Krishna held Putana's breast so tightly with his two hands that she could not pull him away. Krishna was filled with anger, knowing that Putana planned to kill all the children of Braj by offering her breast to them. Therefore, Krishna's power of destruction, the Sanghara Shakti, sucked out her impure life. Krishna did not personally do this. Though we say a man cuts down the tree, actually it is the axe held by the man that cuts down the tree. Similarly, it is stated that Krishna sucked out Putana's life heirs, but actually his Sanghara Shakti performed the work. Right? So why was Krishna angry? He didn't care that she come to kill him. How could she? I mean, he knows his position. But she came to kill all the children of Braj. And that made him angry. Krishna's, Vishnu's quality of Bhakta Vatsalya or Bhakta Vatsala is that he's deeply affectionate to his devotees. And so he will always show favor and protection towards them. He's not showing favoritism on the mundane platform because that's asked in the 7th canto. Why is it that it appears that Krishna is favorable to the devas and unfavorable to the demons? Right? Because he kills the demons, right? So many demons he came and killed. And someone might say, well, it's because the demons are insulting him. The demons are criticizing him. The demons are trying to attack him, all of these things. But commentary by our acharyas is that actually, and Srila Prabhupada explains this, that actually Krishna is completely transcendental. He has no connection with the material energy. So how could any materially generated insult or threat even touch him? It can't touch him, right? So he's not afraid. He has no false ego, right? It's like Akroda Paramananda Nityananda Roy Abhimana Shunya Nityai, right? He has no false ego. And so whatever people do, they may insult him, they might throw dirt at him, they might criticize, but Nityananda is always the benevolent well-wisher of everyone, because nothing of this world afflicts him or affects him. In the same way a child can say things in anger to a parent, right? Because they're impulsive, they can't control their senses, they don't even know the import sometimes of their words, how they could appear very hurtful. But the mother or father, being the well-wisher, they're not affected. They know, oh, my poor child, they're going through something or other, and they always try to help them. Right? Always try to help them. That's why I was so patient with Deva here. Even though he's a knucklehead kid, he's just a kid. So we're always kind to him, and say sweet words. We don't take it seriously. What do you got? 3 more years? Then that's like the judicial system, right? When you're a juvenile, they treat you different than when you're an adult, right? They put you in a different prison, different level of punishment, all that, so. Anyway, but he was angry at her because she wanted to assault and kill his devotees. Just like a mother about other kids also, they're generally pretty patient with other people's kids, all they know about. If somebody else's kid threatens their kid, then they change immediately. Then they become very protective and harsh. Your child tried to do this to my child. My child would never do that. Why your child did that? And then they, So, Krishna didn't do it. His Shakti did this. And it was to protect his devotees. This cannot stand, cannot tolerate a situation or an environment that threats the well-being of the devotees. That's actually why we live in mats, temples, right? Because we want a protective environment. And that's why when we kindly insist, come to Mangalarti, come to class, chant your rounds, do this, do that. It's to create that protection of the Bhakti Shakti, not to make people suffer, not people make unhappy, but to actually make them happy. Chanakya Pandit has a saying, the king, out of concern and welfare, to show kindness to his citizens, will punish them. Right? And of course that could be a very misused statement, but out of concern and kindness to his citizens, he will punish them. In other words, he will keep everybody in line for the benefit of that person themselves so they don't fall into improper, sinful behavior, but also to protect those who might be affected by that. So, Krishna is doing that in Vrindavan. This demon is allowed to come because otherwise she'd be wandering everywhere eating children. He's come to destroy that kind of personality. And she's an agent of Kamsa. Up until now, just sowing chaos everywhere in the world. So, sa muncha muchalam iti babasini nishipidyamana akila jiva marmani vivritanetre charano bojo mohu prasvina gatra shipati rurodaha. Unbearably pressed at every vital point, the demon Putana began to cry, "Please leave me! Leave me! Suck my breast no longer! Ah!" I think Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book translates, "Oh child, leave me!" Right? Perspiring, her eyes wide open and her arms and legs flailing, she cried very loudly again and again. So Cakravarti Thakur says, being squeezed by baby Krishna in all of her sensitive points, Puta began flailing her hands and legs. Now this is not any ordinary demoness. She was as strong as 10,000 elephants. She fought Kamsa to a standstill. Kamsa, who had defeated everyone. Kamsa was even thinking at one point, she may defeat me, which is when he used diplomacy to pacify her. And said, "Oh, you're like my sister, we should be allies." And by his diplomacy, he won her loyalty. So she was in fights with the greatest powerful persons, and in those fights, all kinds of blows and weapons, and she could tolerate that. But when this little tiny baby, he's squeezing her, the breast can be very tender, nipple, but her life airs and every part of her body were completely agitated. Her joints and limbs and nerves are just exploding with pain. And she's flailing. Tasya swanena tagibira ranghasa sadrir mahid house chichachala sagraha rasadishascha pritini direjana Petushito Vrajradipata Shankaya. As Putana screamed loudly and forcefully, the earth with its mountains and outer space with its planets trembled. I think on the camera. The lower planets in all directions vibrated, and people fell down, fearing that thunderbolts were falling upon them. See, even the lower planets, everywhere. Did I wreck the camera? Let me make sure it's okay. There we go. Okay. Back to the text. Okay. Oh, wrong one. There we go. In this way, the demon Putana, very much aggrieved because her breast was being attacked by Krishna, lost her life. O King Pariksit. Opening her mouth wide and spreading her arms, legs, and hair, she fell down in the pasturing ground in her original form as a Rakshasi, as Vitrasura had fallen when killed by the thunderbolt of Indra. Right. So, Cakravarti Thakur says, because of the pain of death, Putana Rakshasi could not maintain her disguise as a beautiful woman and reverted to her demoniac form. What a horror that must have been for everyone, right? Can you imagine? 1 minute, there's your child. Oh, this beautiful woman, she's putting my child to her breast. And then the next moment, very quickly, all of a sudden, Krishna clamps on, starts sucking. And you see this beautiful woman going, ah, 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 trying to get the child off. And then she runs out of the door. She wants to fly back to Kamsa, but she can't, because Krishna is also heavier than the heaviest. And then in extreme pain, trying to, she comes to original form to try and throw him off. It still doesn't work. And then in that form, she dies. So they saw her running out, and then assuming this is the first demon, remember. So this had not happened before. And their baby was just a few days old. Everything was auspicious and happy and joyful. And then all of a sudden, this horrifying sight, and their little tiny baby on the breast of this demoness who is now like 12 miles long. So, the horror of it all. Oh, King Pariksit, when the gigantic body of Putana fell to the ground, it smashed all the trees within a limit of 12 miles. Appearing in a gigantic body, she was certainly extraordinary. Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says, due to intense pain, Putana ran out of the house, fled the village, and fell down on the ground on the outskirts of Braj. The word api signifies that not only while living, but even while dying, Putana was killing other living entities. All the trees within an area of 6 koshas, 12 miles, were crushed by the falling body of the gigantic witch. Oh, but she crushed Braj. But it was remarkable that only the trees were crushed and none of the village houses. According to Sri Jiva Goswami's Vaishnava Toshani Tika, these trees, which were laden with pleasurable fruits, were located in King Kamsa's personal garden. Oh, the irony! Karma, payback. Similarly, remember at Talavan, similar thing. All these demon asses, as they were dead, being thrown into the trees, and the trees falling like dominoes, one onto the other. Also Kamsa's personal garden. Yeah, personal garden means this massive, forest area of orchards and beautiful sweet fruits. No one was allowed to take but the king. And now his own henchwoman has been the cause of the destruction of that. So, the Rakshasi's mouth was full of teeth, each resembling the front of a plow. Big curved teeth. Her nostrils were deep like mountain caves, and her breasts resembling big slabs of stone fallen from a hill. Her scattered hair was the color of copper. The sockets of her eyes appeared like deep blind wells. Her fearful thighs resembled the banks of a river. Her arms, legs, and feet seemed like big bridges. And her abdomen, now sunken, appeared like a dried up lake. The hearts, ears, and heads of the cowherd men and women were already shocked by the Rakshasi's screaming. And when they saw the fierce wonder of her body, they were even more frightened. So Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says, seeing her hideous body, the cowherd men and women became frightened. Putana's teeth were as large as plowshares. Her nostrils were as deep as mountain caves, and her waist was like the bank of a river. Putana's hands, feet, and thighs were like bridges, and her belly was like a dried-up lake. All of this was terrible to see. the hearts, ears, and heads of the Brajbasis were already shouted by Putana's screaming, and upon seeing her ghastly form, they became even more frightened. Ooh, I'll bet. Oh my God. And frightened in what way? For Krishna. Because Krishna is their heart and soul. And that demon, they knew, it's coming from Nanda's house. Krishna's there. Oh, what about our boy? What about our child? Everyone is frightened. But, Balam Chatasyat Odasi Kridantam Akuto Bhayam Gopyasturnam Samabhyetya Jaghur Jata Sambrama. Without fear, the child Krishna was playing on the upper portion of Putana Rakshasi's breast. And when the gopis saw the child's wonderful activities, they immediately came forward with great jubilation and picked him up. So, Cakravarti Thakur explains that Putana's chest was raised like a hill, suitable for playing. The gopis entered the maternity ward, but they did not see Krishna there. Jashoda and Rohini lay on the ground unconscious. Desiring to see Krishna, the gopis went outside the house and saw him playing on Putana. Right? So thereafter, Mother Jashoda and Rohini, along with other elderly gopis, waved about the switch of a cow to give full protection to the child, Sri Krishna. Oh, right. So immediately, our poor child, he just killed this demon. They can't really comprehend that he was the cause of the demon's death. So it's impossible that he could have done this, right? Somehow this demon has died. Lord Narayan must have come to protect him. But now he's been in contact with this terrible demon, such a horrible thing. And so this verse mentions that Jashoda, Rohini, and other gopis performed rituals of protection. Jashoda and Rohini did not take a leading role, however, because they were extremely affected by anxiety for Krishna's safety. The elderly gopis, but they're also filled with this mood of Vatsalya. All the elderly gopis, they have the mood of Vatsalya. They're friends of Mother Jashoda, and they feel the same way towards Krishna. Not to the extent of Mother Jashoda, but still deep, deep. And so they're taking charge in this situation. The elderly gopis waved a cow's tail around all of Krishna's limbs to protect him. They also offered other items such as mustard seeds and touched Krishna with the edge of the winnowing basket. Then the child was thoroughly washed with cow urine and then smeared with the dust raised by the movements of the cows. Then different names of the Lord were applied with cow dung on 12 different parts of his body. So that means beginning with the forehead, as done in applying tilak. In this way, the child is given protection. So he says, Cakravarti Thakur, that using cow dung, they protected Krishna by marking the 12 places of his body while pronouncing the 12 names of Vishnu, starting with the name Keshav on the forehead, as done in applying tilak. So this goes way back, right? It's not a newly invented thing here. So the gopis first executed the process of achman, drinking a sip of water from the right hand. They purified their bodies and hands with the nyasa mantra and then applied the same mantra upon the body of the child. Cakravarti Thakur says that the gopis hastily started the rituals of protection without first doing achman because of great fear. In other words, great prem, right? Manifesting as fear. So that overcomes, in that state, the ritualistic rules and regulations may be neglected. And there's no fault, because what? It is meant anukulyena krishnanushilanam. That overcomes everything. After calming down, they did the rituals properly by first performing achman. Then they performed anganyas and karanyas on their own bodies and hands. Then they invoked bij mantras on Krishna's limbs. The bij consists of the first syllable of the name with an anusvara. Example, Om Namaha, may Aja protect your feet. Mam Namaha, may Maniman protect your knees. Right. When you do the Narayan Kavacha, you can see that, right? There's these Bij mantras to empower these names. Not to empower them, but to assist. The names are independently powerful, but to assist us in understanding, realization. And it's a kind of invocation, right? So, then Shukadeva Goswami informed Maharaj Parikshit that the gopis, following the proper system, protected Krishna, their child, with this mantra. May Aja protect your legs. May Maniman protect your knees. Yagya, your thighs. Achyuta, the upper part of your waist. And Hayagriva, your abdomen. May Keshav protect your heart. Isha, your chest. The sun god, your neck. Vishnu, your arms. Urukram, your face. And Ishvara, your head. May Chakri protect you from the front. May Sri Hari, Gadadhari, the carrier of the club, protect you from the back. And may the carrier of the bow, who is known as the enemy of Madhu, and Lord Ajana, the carrier of the sword, protect your two sides. May Lord Urugaya, the carrier of the conch shell, protect you from all corners. May Upendra protect you from above. May Garuda protect you on the ground. And may Lord Haladar, the Supreme Person, protect you on all sides. Srila Cakravarti Thakur explains this by saying, they protected Krishna's limbs using a mantra. Angri stands for the 2 feet. Maniman is a particular avatar of the Lord. Janu stands for both knees. Hrit refers to the lotus holding the living entity in the region of the heart. And Uro means chest. In verse 23, which is this one, the directions around Krishna are protected. May the holder of the chakra protect you in front. May Sahagada, the holder of the club, protect you from behind. May Madhusudana, holding the bow, and Aja, holding a sword, protect your sides. May Sanka Urugaya, holding the conch, protect you in the 4 corners, northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest. And may Upendra protect you from above. And may Taksha, Garuda, protect you from below. May Haladar protect you in all directions. So, then they go on. Next verse. May Rishikesh protect your senses, and Narayan your life air. May the master of Shvetadvip protect the core of your heart, and may Lord Yogeshwara protect your mind. May Lord Prishnagarbha protect your intelligence, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead your soul. While you are playing, may Govinda protect you, and while you are sleeping, may Madhav protect you. May Lord Vaikuntha protect you while you are walking, and may Lord Narayan, the husband of the goddess of fortune, protect you while you are sitting. Similarly, may Lord Yagyabhut, the fearful enemy of all evil planets, always protect you while you enjoy life. The evil witches, known as Alkinis, Yatudhanis, and Kusmandas, are the greatest enemies of children. And the evil spirits like Bhutas, Pretas, Pishachas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, and Vinayakas, as well as witches like Kotara, Revati, Jesta, Putana, and Matrika, are always ready to give trouble to the body, the life air, and the senses, causing loss of memory, madness, and bad dreams. Like the most experienced evil stars, they all create great disturbances, especially for children. But one can vanish them simply by uttering Lord Vishnu's name. For when Lord Vishnu's name resounds, all of them become afraid and go away. So then Sri Shukadeva Goswami continued, all the gopis headed by Mother Jashoda were bound by maternal affection, After they thus chanted mantras to protect the child, Mother Jashoda gave the child the nipple of her breast to suck and then got him to lie down on his bed. And the commentary, thus the gopis, being bound by maternal affection, completed the rituals for protection. After offering her breast to Krishna and seeing him happily sucking her milk, Jashoda could understand that Krishna was in good health. Then she lay Krishna down to sleep. Yeah, that's a sign of good health in the child. I had a friend that once had a child prematurely, and the child had difficulty taking breast milk. Couldn't do it. And so they had to make special arrangements and different things for the child. But as it got his strength together, then he was able to do it. And they said, okay, now he's going to get better. It's the most nourishing thing for a baby, to take the breast milk of the mother. On one level, it's full of nutrients and special things, which special kinds of antibodies and antibiotics and everything in the mother's milk that will protect the child from disease. Also, it's especially nurturing. It's like when baby cows take milk from a cow in the very first few weeks, the cow's milk has this special thing called something colostrum. I can't remember the full name. And it is extra full of nutrients. And actually, some people market that as a special medicine and nutrient. And above and beyond the material benefits, there's a special nurturing quality and emotional bonding between the mother and the child, which gives both of them strength because it gives comfort and makes one calm. And in that emotional condition, everything is auspicious, right? You don't want babies agitated. You want them calm. When we're agitated, we produce hormones that disturb us, that can affect our health. You don't want to always be angry. You don't always be afraid. All these things, if they're allowed to continue, they can, give you all kinds of diseases. So this little baby now taking the milk very peacefully and going to sleep. Of course, Krishna was never disturbed. He was rather, he's always transcendental. And he likes killing demons. But in this case, without her knowing it, she thought she was doing it to pacify and help her child, but he was actually doing it for her, right? He was bound by her love. So meanwhile, all the cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, returned from Mathura, and when they saw on the way the gigantic body of Putana lying dead, they were struck with wonder. Purport, the cowherd men were astonished. Quote, perhaps a flying mountain fell from the sky by mistake and crushed all the huge trees. Perhaps we have come to the wrong place under the spell of some witch. Or perhaps this is just a magical illusion. Many doubts arose in their mind. They couldn't imagine, Vrindavan, what is this? It wasn't like this when we left. Nanda Maharaj and all the other gopis exclaimed, my dear friends, you must know that Anaka Dundubi, Vasudeva, has become a great saint or a master of mystic power. Otherwise, how could he have foreseen this calamity and predicted it to us? Right? So, Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says that same thing again in his purport. Then the inhabitants of Braj cut the gigantic body of Putana into pieces with the help of axes. Then they threw the pieces far away, covered them with wood, and burned them to ashes. Right? This is the order of Upananda, and that the lower class men completely burned Putana's body out of fear that it would come to life again. Right? So you have to burn these poisonous creatures so that they have no more influence. Because of Krishna's having sucked the breast of the Rakshasi Putana, when Krishna killed her, and then they're burning it. It must have been a horrible smell, right? Burning the nasty, corrupted body of this Rakshasi. But because of Krishna's having sucked the breast of the Rakshasi Putana, when Krishna killed her, she was immediately freed of all material contamination. Her sinful reactions automatically vanished, and therefore when her gigantic body was being burnt, the smoke emanating from her body was fragrant, like a guru incense. Right. She's purified. Putana was always hankering for the blood of human children, and with that desire, she came to kill Krishna. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. What then is to be said of those who had natural affection and devotion and affection for Krishna as mothers who offered their breast to suck or offered something very dear as a mother offers to a child? There's going to be some more on this. There's some significant purport. And there's also the story of how Putana came to be there, right? So I guess we'll finish. We want to complete that. And I have to figure at what point when we're going to start talking about Srimati Radhika, because her day is coming up about, 10 days? Yeah, about 10 days. Yeah, maybe less. 10 days. So we'll stop here. We'll turn this off. Where do I go? I got to get that. There we are. Okay, so all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev, all glories to Srila Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur, the commentator on this Srimad Bhagavatam, and all glories to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Haribol, Haribol.